Okay. All right. So obviously, chapter 1, definitions. You just got to know them. There's no formulas. Chapter 2 is when we got into histograms. You can't write down the formula for class width. You just have to know it. What is the formula for class width?
Lower bounds 1, 2.
Cool. What's another name for the high minus low? Range. So it's the range divided by the number of classes, right? So we all kind of know that. Some of you guys probably knew that. You just didn't know what I wanted when I asked that question. But that's, when they say calculate the class width, that's what you do. How far do I want to go divided by how big each thing I'm going to cover it with. Okay? Well, how many things I want to cover it with. So chapter 2, there's really nothing, let me think, it's on my head.
And the class width should always be 5 to 10.
The number of classes should always be 5 to 10. Good. Chapter 3 is where we really hit our first formulas. You got this little dude and this other dude. If you don't want to, I wouldn't write them down if I were you. We all know how to calculate the mean. You do have to show me some work. Just put down what you get when you sum them up, divided by the number there are. Show me a little tiny bit of work. Nothing major there. So obviously the first major formula we hit is for the standard deviation. There's a little thing you can do. What can you put down here for the median? What's the only real formula for the median? And I will allow you to put it down here if you want to. Who remembers how to figure out what the middle number is? There's a little tiny formula. So it's this guy here. Normally given the name D for depth. How deep into the list do you want to go? So remember, if I have 5 numbers, 5 plus 1 is 6 divided by 2. 1, 2, 3. The third number in is the median. As long as the list, of course, is in order. You guys okay this morning?
Yeah.
You got on. Because you're all facing this way. So if you want to, put that down. If you don't want to do that, I wouldn't. That's not the way you do the median. Don't put that down, but you'll be freaking out. What the hell's that? Okay. Yes, sir.
We can label the formulas. We don't just have to have a sheet of formulas and know what they do, right?
No words.
Okay.
The only words you could have, for example, like the mid-range, there's no real symbol for mid-range,
Okay.
so I will allow you to write that down. Beyond that, you can't put here population mean, sample mean, right? None of that.
Okay.
Use this one, no. No labels, no indicators, just the certain words that I put up here on the board. So I want to make this really clear. Make sure your formula sheet only has those things that are up on the board and will continue to be put on the board. If there's anything else up there that we didn't agree on that's words or notes or anything else, you will lose points. Because you will need to turn this in with your test. Right? I don't want anybody else to have an unfair advantage over anybody else. Yeah.
Can you show us the secondary way of how you got sample variance from,
yes, I
from
will.
the original one?
I'll show you.
Okay.
So the mid-range, remembers what the mid-range was. So there's the range, and you want to be in the middle of it.
Yeah, range divided by 2.
Yeah, you want to average out the extremes, right? So the average something 2 numbers out and divide by 2, and I add them together. The plus is what throws people off, because the range is minus, but there's a plus in this one because you got to average. Sum divided by 2. Okay, mode is an idea. There's no formula for that. Median, that's the only real thing that we can use for the median. Let's see, I think that's it for that stuff. Until we get to the real thing here. Put the one down that you're going to use. Don't put them both down. Again, you have to put something down you don't use, you're going to freak out when you see it. Don't put them both down. Put whichever one you use. So hopefully you've done this homework or are doing it, and you've picked one to do. I don't care which one you use. Right?
I want to put both of them down.
You can put both of them down. I love it. It's up to you. I'm just saying if you use one of them, don't put the other one down. Don't confuse yourself. What's the only difference? Oop, crap. I got ahead of myself.
Yeah.
What's the only difference between these, which are for what?
Variance.
Yeah, this is the variance of a population. So what's the only difference really with that in the variance for the sample? So I was thinking ahead a little too much. There should be an N down here, right? Because what changes for a sample? Same top, but the bottom is
-1.
N minus 1. And the symbol here changes, but it's the same idea. The distance away from the mean. N minus 1 is the adjustment, right? Or you can use now if you want to, and again, this is entirely up to you. Instead of putting sigma squared and s squared, you could put sigma equals big old square root, right? If you wanted to, any of these formulas, you can write it as square root of, for example. Get in there. Cool? Because this is the variance, you have one more step to do the standard deviation. If you'd rather write it like this on your formula sheet, please do. Write the formula the way that you're used to seeing it and using it. Okay. I am hopeful. And then after standard deviation, we really just did one other thing that had a little formula to it. And it was that one thing I said that you're responsible for from section 3.4. We haven't done percentiles yet. So you're not
Z-score.
responsible for percentiles yet, but the z-score, yeah. And the z-score, what does the z-score tell you?
Number of standard deviations away from the mean.
Cool, so the number of standard deviations from the mean to a data point. I love it. So the way I normally try to describe standard deviation, would you measure the distance between San Francisco and New York in inches?
No.
If you had a choice. No, hell no. Right, because it's so freaking huge. So of course I'm not going to use inches. I'm going to use something that makes me step quicker and get there faster, right? So standard deviation is sort of like the tick marks on my ruler. If my data is really spread out, my tick marks are going to be really spread out. You guys sort of with me so far? So I love the idea of this is my tick marks on a ruler. This is when I lay it down and actually make a measurement. How far away is this data point from the middle? In what units? In these units, right? In standard deviations. Yeah, I'm always hoping. And of course, we have the empirical rule. We start to see why knowing a z-score is so important. It tells me how far away it is from the middle. The further I am from the middle, the more weird I am. Right? So if you're 8 feet tall, to be politically incorrect? That's to be grammatically incorrect. To be politically incorrect, you could say, gosh, you're freaking weird. Right? I mean, that's not, you're just really freakishly tall. Or if you're 2 feet tall, you're really short. Right? You guys with me? Okay. So, coming back, if this tells me the number of standard deviations from the mean to a data point, I have to first know the distance between the mean and the data point. And to divide that by how big each step is, the standard deviation. So the other formula, the formula I actually had up here before was this. That, of course, is if I'm doing a z-score for a sample, and that's, of course, for a population, 11. Do you notice how the z-score formula really doesn't change? It's your data point minus the center divided by how big each step is. That's what both of those formulas say. Every z-score formula we see, there's going to be a lot of different ones. They all are basically this. The z-score formula truly never changes the idea. I'm hopeful. And as far as I can remember, I think that's it.
What's that X with the squiggle on it again?
Yeah, what's the little X with the tilde?
Mean.
That's the, with a tilde. That's the median. Cool.
Yeah.
There's really nowhere to put that. There's no direct formula for median. Here's a formula for finding where the median is, but it's not a formula for the median. You guys with me? This would be okay, it's the fifth one, the answer's not 5, the answer is whatever the fifth number is. Okay, maybe. Because median, there's 2 steps, isn't there? If I want to find a median, isn't there 2 steps? First step is, where would the answer be? In the middle, I like it. Now, could you be a little more specific? How many numbers are there up here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So it's going to be between 7 and 10.
Yeah, so if you do 8 plus 1 divided by 2, that's 9 halves, that's 4.5. So it's going to be in between the 4th and the 5th one. You guys with me? That's what that little formula is for. 4.5, it's between the 4th and the 5th numbers. So then you just average those together. So the median here would be 17 divided by 2? 8.5. Okay. Notice how this is on another board. This cannot go on your formula sheet. This is your formula sheet.
So X tilde means mid-range.
X tilde means median.
Median cannot go on.
Exactly, no. No little definitions, no examples. Right now, unless you guys have any more suggestions, this is it. This board right here. This is all that could be on your formula sheet. Are there any suggestions for something else? Because I'm human, I can miss something.
I guess the empirical would really have your formula.
I like it. Empirical rule you have to know. Remember I told you have to memorize. Chevy Chev, I'm not so concerned. Empirical rule you must know. So what does the empirical rule state? Within 1 standard deviation of a normal distribution there is 68. Within 2 there's 95. Within 3 there's 99.7. Okay, cool. You have to know those. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we can't write those on the note?
Hell no. So that should be pretty quick to remember, and it's important that the normal distribution is what kind of rules our lives. Not because it's the only thing that I can use, but it's because if I can use it, it's the easiest thing. So a lot of statistics, and I try to make these points early, a lot of statistics is when am I allowed to use that? When am I allowed to use the normal distribution for a situation? If I'm not, freaky shit. If I am, easy stuff. All right, so it's all about different situations. What do I check to make sure it's normal enough to use all this stuff I know? You know, a lot of what I say is in our future. I don't want to confuse the issue, but I got to build it up. Anything else? Any other suggestions? I'm open to suggestions. Just to make this point, I think a few people just came in. Your formula sheet for the test can only have the stuff up here on this board. Anything else, you will lose points for. Any little notes, use this when no. All right, you're going to lose points for that. And that would so suck. Because those are points you can't get back. All right, so, cool. So if the formula sheet's all set, we can get into any questions we have. I have the answer key for the practice test. I want to hold off on that just for a minute and see if you guys want to. Because part of what you can do today is work on that if you haven't tried that out yet. You can do corrections to the quizzes. You can finish up homework. We can do problems up on the board. We can do problems in the calculator. It's sort of open to you guys. This is, floor is yours. Yeah. Box and whisker plot will not be on there. The only thing from section 3.4 that will be on the test is the z-score. And that's just really a plug and chug. Let me say this real quick. I did see on the homework, I saw somebody have some trouble with putting this into the calculator. If I wanted to calculate the z-score, let's say the mean is 11, standard deviation is 2, and I want to know what's the z-score for, I don't know, 17. And you plug it into the formula. So what would go into the formula here? How would that formula get set up?
Whole 1 minus 17.
Careful now. What's always got to be second in the z-score formula? The mean. So it'll be my data point, 17. How far away is that from the mean, minus 11, divided by 2? When you go to put this in your calculator, what's wrong with putting it in like this?
It's going to do 11 divided by 2 first.
It knows order operations, which is good and bad.
It's going to divide it and get it.
The old calculator, you put 17 minus 11 divided by, it would do that and then divide by 2, right?
You have to use parentheses.
Exactly. So on this graphing calculator and on scientific calculators that show you the whole thing, you must write it in. What's kind of evil about this bar for the calculator? We know what that bar means. We can see it. Calculator can't see it. It has no eyeballs. Right? Maybe the TI 9000, you'll just point it at something and it'll see it. Do that problem. There it is. But they haven't done that yet. So you must do this. So if you want to, it's not a damn thing wrong with putting that on your formula sheet, just to remind yourself. That's still a valid formula. That's going to happen a lot in this class, by the way. We have to be real careful about parenthesis placement, so your calculator will give you the right answer. Garbage in, garbage out. Got to be careful how you put it in. Yeah.
This isn't so much. It's not really to do with the practice test. I was just wondering on the first question on it.
Yeah.
Is that just a made-up statistic, or is that somewhat accurate?
Oh yeah, it's totally made up.
Okay.
I try on my practice tests. I just make them quick, so I just make stuff up. On the actual test, I do try to have either data from you guys or data from like the census from online or data from Gallup or data from somewhere, real data. And I put the little link so you guys can check it out if you want to. Because the thing that makes statistics suck a lot for students is sometimes all the made-up freaking data. Who cares about made-up freaking data? I want to see some real data and crunch some numbers, see something that really means something somewhere. So yeah, I try to put real data on the real test. Fake data on the fake data. Yeah.
Can we go over one of the histograms, like 10, 11, or 14 on 2.3?
Sure. So those, of course, refer back to stuff that you had to do in section 2.2. Do you have a more specific question about it?
I got all of them wrong. I don't understand.
Oh, shit. Did I put any notes down there?
You like crossed out all my.
Oh, if you set up, are you guys cool with this? Everybody got this? This is what can be in your formula sheet? Okay. About right here is where I used to have somebody go, no! If you make your classes like this, how must you make your scale on your histogram? Can this be 13? 12.5.
Yeah.
And then 17.5, yeah. It's got to be those boundaries. If you instead, let me see somebody, who does it the other way, the inequality way? Can you tell me what this first class would look like? Does anybody, nobody wants to fess up?
Less than x.
Less than or equal to x, okay.
And then less than 17.
Careful.
18.
18. And the next one would be 18 less than or equal to x, less than 23. And if you do it this way, then your scale can be 13, 18. So I don't understand, again, I don't understand why books have gone away from this. The book I used a million years ago had this method in it. They're all going to this now. This introduces so many ambiguities, but this is what you have in the book. So I understand if you want to do it this way, please do it this way because you have the book to back you up, but you have this option too.
We want to use midpoints instead.
Midpoints are cool too. You could use midpoints, so you just would add these up, divide by 2. So you could do a midpoint where your bar would sit over it, and the midpoint here would be 15, so forth. So you could use midpoints also. Yeah.
Can you do 34 on 3.2? I just didn't even know where to start.
Oh yeah, so I talked a little bit about this specific type of problem. Because you have the classes where they have, the first test is 250 points, and the midterm is 500 points, and whatever. So not the way that I do it, but a point system. When you have the way that I do it, the percentage system, those are weights. Right, so if I have midterm is 30%, homework is 20%, and the final would have to be the rest 50%. Do you want to be in that class? I don't know about that. So if you make on your midterm, you make you suck on the midterm, you do really well on the homework, and the final you have a pretty good day. Which one of those is going to determine your grade most? Which one is the most important? The final. So that should somehow show up. So if I don't have weights, if I just said calculate the average of these three things, I'm assuming they each have a weight of 1. In this case, they each would have a weight of 1/3. Do you see that? 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 of this plus 1/3 of that plus 1/3 of this. In this case, they're being very specific. It's not a third each. It's 30% of this plus 20% of this plus 50% of this. So that's all you have to do. You don't have to divide by anything because the division is already in each of these, isn't it? Isn't this 3/10, 2/10, 5/10? It's already in there, so you don't have to divide by anything, yeah.
On that same problem, it says there's 5 tests, and they're like the 5 tests are worth 60%.
Yep.
So do you do like 60 divided
I would
by
average
5?
the test, and that would be average. So I could put here like average test grade.
And then you do that times.
So I would average the test grade and multiply it by the weight.
Okay.
And that's exactly how I do it for you guys. Yeah.
On 34, isn't the last part of that question ambiguous because different teachers give different letter grades
True.
depending on the score?
I think they're assuming though that it's a 10-point
Yeah.
grading scale. But that's a big assumption to make. I agree with you. So if you really felt like it, you could put down there, it depends on what the hell the teacher says. And I would understand that answer because they are a little, you never know. They don't say in there it's a 10-point grading scale. Cool. Yeah.
Do we have to be 344 homework?
No, not yet. And be careful. If I say no, people are never going to do it. Not for the first test. It'll be on the next test. The homework for 3-4 will be due the day of test 2. And we'll have a couple problems from there on test 2. Okay. The only thing on this test from 3-4 is the z-score. Yeah.
I get one.
Yeah.
On the stem and leaf thingy, you asked for a key. What's the key?
So if I write down, so if somebody just gives me a stem and leaf, and they give me this. This could mean 18. This could mean 1.8. This could even mean 0.18. This could mean 108. It could mean a lot of different things. So I need a key. 1.8 means, and in my brain I was thinking 1.8. But you'd have no way of knowing. So if this was the, I don't know. Obviously 1.8 and 18 are very far apart. So
Yeah.
depending on what this data represents, you could really throw everything off that you're trying to do. So you have to know what it represents.
So that means part is the actual key.
Yeah, this is the key.
Okay.
This symbol from what I've given you interprets into this data point.
Alright.
Cool.
So we're asking about 2 digits, but I'm guessing that's not
Now what? You can almost read some of your brains. You're like, and we leave. It'll be great. Yep.
On 2.2, you marked number 18 wrong, and you said or number 10 in 2.2, but I don't see any.
What's, I'm sorry?
2.2, you mark number 18 wrong, and I looked back and I didn't. And your comment was for number 10 needs to fix it.
2, number 18?
Yeah.
For number 10, I have no idea. You gotta show me. So
Okay.
show me after class.
Okay.
Yeah.
On practice test, B, the population would be all students who park at Grossmont, not just all students at Grossmont.
Let me see, where are we? We're
8B.
8, okay. Yeah, 8B, I want to make a point out of 8B. Look at the practice test 8B. The sample could not possibly be the 14%. Right? Which sounds like a new movement, but let's not go there. The sample could not possibly be the 14% because I had to have a sample to find that 14% in the first place. The 14%, who knows this, would be what? What is the 14%? Statistic, because it's a data analysis I did on a sample. That 14% is a statistic that I did on a sample. So what is the sample? 183 students, and you can say Grossmont students. If you're not more specific there, you better be more specific in your population statement. What's your population? All students at Grossmont. Good. You got to be specific somewhere, and normally you want to be more specific in the population. That's the group of people you're allowed to choose from. So that's why you have to be a little more specific in the population. If you said all students, then I can check any student I want to anywhere. Not what the intention is.
Would it be wrong to say all students park at Grossmont?
That might be wrong because I could
Yeah.
talk to people that don't park at Grossmont. They either ride here or they're tired of trying to walk home through the parking lots, and the parking lots get them down. Stupid people trying to run them over. So I could include people that don't actually park a car here in my data. If you said that, I kind of understand where you're coming from, but still. Yeah.
For z-scores, do you want us to take it to 4 places like it does on the chart in the book, or is
Z-scores actually go to 2 places in the chart. It's the probabilities that go to 4, yeah. But for right now, just when in doubt, go 3 places. But I will tell you, eventually Z-scores will all be to 2 decimal places because a chart we're going to use later only wants it out to 2. Yep.
On number 8B, the sample is going to be 183 students.
That's right.
Or 14% from 183.
So again, if you say my sample is the 14%,
No, my sample is 14% from 183.
but so if your sample is those people, you somehow psychically knew that they enjoyed parking. Where did I get that 14% from? I picked 183 people. That must be my sample. Then I talk to them, and I find out that 14% of them enjoy parking. That can't possibly be my sample. I can't have picked those people specifically. I picked a larger group and found out something about them, right? So there was a problem in the homework. Like 9% of people did something. I can't remember, something to do with guns, maybe. There are a few gun problems in there, but 9% of the 1,000 something surveyed did this, and that was not the sample. It can't be.
So
That's something I found once I had my sample.
So what do you mean you just picked 183 students and you picked 14% from them? They were enjoying parking at a Grossmont College.
But I didn't pick them. I didn't pick the 14%. I found out.
You found it, yeah.
Yes. So that's not my sample. That is a
The 183
statistic.
is your sample.
Cool. So the 183 is my sample.
So how would you word that? It's a statistic because it's what you found in your sample?
So if the question was, what is the 14%, you would say it's a statistic because it describes a sample.
Okay.
Couldn't possibly be a parameter because I don't have information for every student at Grossmont. Yeah.
Please go over number 4B.
The average temperature. So you could argue, but I'm going to tell you don't. I'm not going to put a Kelvin temperature down there because we don't all know Kelvin. So let me just shoot that argument down right now. It's either Fahrenheit or Celsius, most likely Fahrenheit. 56, kind of a cold day. What is it about temperature then, Fahrenheit temperature, or Celsius for that matter? Could it be, it's definitely not going to be just nominal or ordinal. Are we cool with that? because it's more than just a label. It's more than just some kind of category. It's a true number. So is it going to be what or what? Interval or ratio?
Yeah. Depends on which one.
It's definitely got to be interval.
Because there's no true
Zero doesn't mean the absence of all heat, thank God. It's 0 outside. Don't go there. Right? Open the door. Fall over you, break into pieces. It's gross. Or demolition. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Reference.
Probably wouldn't be Celsius either if we're talking about just outside, but we don't
Yeah,
necessarily.
56 would be crazy
56
Celsius.
would be
Yeah. That would be another reason not to go
100 and
outside.
something degrees.
Yeah. But it really, Celsius or Fahrenheit, same idea.
Oh, yeah.
They're both, either one is going to be interval data, mainly because 0 does not mean what it's supposed to mean. Right? So then math doesn't make sense as far as dividing or multiplying. What's twice as hot as 0? The math would say 0. That doesn't make a damn bit of sense. Yesterday was 0. Today it's 0. It's twice as hot now. What the hell's wrong with you? Right? It doesn't make any sense. So ratios don't make sense when 0 is not in the right place. Right? Okay. Maybe. Yeah.
I have one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
On 2.5, number 6, how would you set that up?
Number 6. Oh. So let me try to get this understood. And when you're, I'm not going to quite address your question quite yet. When you're graphing, this has something to do with it, though, don't worry. When you're graphing just points, why would this graph really suck? What have I kind of done wrong to really be able to see anything in here? My scale is bad. Why the hell do I need all this shit here? Let me zoom in here and zoom maybe in here and just really pull it out so I can see what's going on, right? Why is that allowed? But this is not allowed, where this is not really 0 here. This is like, in this case, 50,000 or whatever. It's not allowed here. Because doesn't this whole bar, everything here represent something? It's not just a point, it's a bar, so there's more to it. This kind of tells me the location of something here. All that matters is where does it come together. So I can zoom in on it. I'm not going to change anything about the data, what it's showing me. I'm just going to be able to see it better. Here, they have done something really bad, right? So if I have something like, is 9,000 very different from 10,000? No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I almost did it. So 7,000 very different from 8,000? No. But if I make it 7,000, 8,000, even this would be bad. 6,000, 7,000, 8,000. Now I've really overstated the difference by quite a bit. So one of the main things, actually most of the problems you had to do in there were just, they didn't start at frickin' 0. When you're drawing a bar graph, you have to start at 0. Otherwise, you can overstate or understate that difference, which is really what bar graphs show. They show the difference between the height here and the height there. Is that what this shows? No, it just shows where things are. That's over there related to that. It doesn't matter how high it is or anything, so I can zoom in there. I can't zoom in on these. I overstate the difference then. So in that one, obviously it makes look like men make a ton more than women, when actually they make maybe a quarter of a ton more. Right? Unfortunately still. Yeah.
In that same thing, I remember in America the Book, they had a really funny picture of that, of something like that, where it was like bars just there and they didn't really label it. And so they had all these different bars, and it's like number of misleading graphs used.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's the numbers are like super close together, but they list the numbers and then just make the bars just whatever length that they want.
Oh yeah,
Because the data is right there, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But it's like
The bad thing is that was a joke, but unfortunately
yeah.
that happens a lot. And people aren't doing it necessarily on purpose. They aren't necessarily doing it to mislead people. It's just that they haven't done it in the best way possible to show it. And unfortunately, on the other side, people read it, something like this, and they go, oh my God, oh, look at that. When really, oh, okay, it's not that bad. Yeah, yeah.
Do you think that you could do a z-score on 2 on the test from those exact numbers?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let's see.
Just anyone specific, it doesn't matter.
So like the one we did over there, we just didn't finish it out, right? So the one over there, if I have mean of 11, and I want to know the z-score of this was, standard deviation was 2. 17 minus 11 over 2, 6 over 2, 3. So let me ask this real quick before I get too far. Is that unusual then?
Yeah.
Would it be unusual to have 17 whatever this is? Yes, it would be, because is more than 2. You just have to be further than 2, either up or down. So I just want to make that point right now. So did you have one in mind? You wanted one from the practice test?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to see the exact numbers, like how you would set it up and stuff like that.
So in number 2 on the practice test,
Yeah, like for A or something.
what's the mean?
The average price of 95, with a standard deviation of 12, and it's approximately normally distributed.
Okay.
And find the z-score for $107.
So how would you set that up? Z would equal, and put the formula down.
Okay.
X minus the mean divided by standard deviation. So X always represents a data point. In this case, there is a specific data point that I'm interested in. What is that?
107.
107. That's my data point that I'm interested in. Minus the given mean,
95.
95,
Over 12.
divided by how big each step is, 12.
Okay.
Cool.
Set.
And then you do the top first. If you wanted, you could do that in the calculator, just like you can do that subtraction and then divide by 12.
Okay.
Just don't put 107 minus 95 divided by 12 with no parentheses. That's when you start getting z-scores of 100 and something, which is like, holy crap. That is really far away. So this should be 12 over 12. It should be one step up. Don't force your answer to come out positive. Do z-scores have to be positive? Negative z-scores just indicate what?
It's going low.
That data point is
To the left side.
below the mean, or on the left side of the mean. I like it.
So it would just be z equals 1?
Yep. In part B, I have 83, right?
Yeah.
83 minus 95 is negative 12. Divided by 12 is negative 1. It's a z-score negative 1, meaning one step down. Cool. How are we doing there? Yeah.
So number 1F, what is that? P4?
So on F, that's from section 3.4. When I made the practice test, I wasn't sure how far we make it. So 1F is not going to be on the test. That'll be on the next test. But just to let you know, P40 would mean the 40th percentile. Yeah. But we don't have to know quite what that means yet.
6B has something like that. 45th.
Oh yeah, 6B, same thing. I think I answered it on the answer key, but anything referencing percentiles, 1F, 6B, I'm not going to ask you that. But be ready for possibly true or false questions, conceptual questions. What question is definitely going to be on the test? What does the z-score tell you? I'm telling you right now that that question will be on every single test I give. It must be important.
So
I almost don't care if you just memorize something and spit it back out, but I'd rather you really understand what the hell it is you're saying. Z-score is a very simple idea. How far away it is in number of standard deviations, right? It's a measurement in statistics. Yeah.
For C, the average number of TVs.
Where are we at? Sorry?
For C.
Oh, 4C. Oh, the average number of TVs is 3.7. So what is my actual data? Whenever I give you something like that, don't look, if I say average number of TVs or 7% of these people said this, just say what would actually be on my list. What would I be asking people? How many TVs do you have? How many TVs do you have? Right? So what level of data is that? So you could say I have no TVs, and you could say I have 4 TVs. And you've got 20. It's a little crazy, but yeah. Each drawer, in case I want to open a drawer and get a sock, it's right there. It's an old soccer commercial.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right, good.
Yeah.
He had a TV everywhere he looked. He had a
It's
TV
like
so he
6
can
years
keep an
ago.
eye on the game. So, what level of data is that definitely not going to be? Which two things can you pick out?
It's not going to be nominal.
It's not going to be nominal or ordinal because it's more than just words.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interval or ratio, and which one?
It's going to be ratio.
And what determines that is
True zero.
0 means what it's supposed to mean. 0 means the absence of
That is
TVs.
0.
And another way you could say it is, don't just say 0's right or something. Say 0 would mean no TVs. When you're explaining it to me on the test, so it has a true inherent 0, it means what it's supposed to mean, and tell me what the hell that is. Or you could say, if one guy had 4 TVs and somebody else had 2, 4 divided by 2 is 2 mathematically, and that is twice as many TVs. It makes sense. Cool.
For the standard deviation, are you going to make us do it all longhand?
On this test, yes.
Okay.
So obviously I'm not going to give you 8 standard deviation. I'm going to give you 1 standard deviation question, right? Where you have to set up the table. Whichever formula you want to use, set up the table, show me all the numbers, show me the formula. I always have somebody just write the answer down because they know how to push the buttons. You lose all points then. All right, don't do that. It's kind of stupid. Don't be stupid.
For 7A, is it
Say again, sorry?
for 7A?
Yes. Let me go ahead and give you guys the answer key now. Some of you guys are sitting there going, just give me that damn thing. Here it is.
What number do you want?
Still on number 1.
Oh, I skipped 1E.
That'll do it.
It takes
That's for the longest, so I can
Yeah, it takes way
do
too
that
long.
later.
We're doing this E part for like 10 minutes now.
Oh, yeah.
How many questions on the test?
Just a second.
I got this back. I'm coming up with the right numbers, dude.
All right. How you doing? Doing all right. Good. All right, so a really good question that was just asked is how long is this test going to be? And this practice test, let me see, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20. Yeah, it's about the same length. Roughly my tests are, and counting A, B, C, D, are roughly in between 20 and 30. Normally around 24, 25, 26 questions. You with me? Because I've had teachers that said, oh yeah, this first test is going to be 3 questions long, and then they had A through J. It's like, holy shit. All right, so I like to count each of them. So roughly the same size as this one. So notice this first test is really strange in that some problems are very work intensive, take forever, and the other ones are you know it or you don't. So that's just the way it's going to be. So if I were you, I would get problems like this done and then get into this, right? Don't sit there all day long doing this and look at the back and go, all right, give me your test. I didn't do any of these, damn it. Don't do that to yourself. Yeah.
Can you do another one more time? 22 on 3, 3?
2233?
Yeah, it says to find the coefficient of variation for fictitious data.
I like it. And very often, I will purposefully leave out an idea because I'm trying to force you to go back and read the section.
Oh,
So,
okay,
yeah. So you got to go back and now. Well, I'll talk to you about it now since you asked me a question. Sometimes I'm sitting there waiting to hear a question about it, and that's a way for me to gauge how much homework has been done. If no question about a very freaky thing comes up, I'm like, shit, nobody's done that homework yet. all the coefficient of variation. So, for example, would you say a standard deviation of 2 is big?
Yes.
That's right and wrong. Right? If my data
Depends on the day.
was in the millions, is that a very big standard deviation? Like the standard deviation of incomes among people living in a certain neighborhood, right? Where all the homes are worth $6.5 million. If the standard deviation was only $2, that's a little weird. They all make roughly the same amount of money then, don't they? So if my data is on this level, and what really kind of tells me the level my data is on would be the mean. So my data is on the level of 1 million, this is really stupid small. If my data is on the level of 1.1, that's really big. In fact, there's a problem in the homework where the standard deviation comes out to be larger than the average, which is really what I just put there. That can happen. Your average could be 0. That doesn't mean your data points are all 0. It just means that some were negative, some were positive, right? But then your standard deviation won't be 0. There's still variation. You guys kind of with me? So that was one problem when I think it was the weight loss problem, where some were negative, some were positive. So the mean comes out kind of small. Standard deviation is bigger than that because of that fact. So your question really is, what's the coefficient of variation? It's just the standard deviation divided by the mean.
What about that
I'm
one?
kind of mixing my symbols, but oh. Or sigma over mu. I'm not going to have a question on that on the test. I'll just tell you right now. Coefficient of variation is very infrequently used. It's just one little check to see, compare it to other things, but it's not very often used, to be honest.
So basically, once I found all the information that you wanted.
Good. You find the mean, you find the standard deviation for each one, and you calculate each one of them, you calculate this. Right? Take the standard deviation you found, divide it by the mean.
Okay, and then
Cool.
that's the coefficient.
And that'll be the coefficient.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
So, just backing up just a few minutes, you said the difference between interval and ratio is that there's no true zero. What
So
can you
in interval, there's no, 0 doesn't necessarily mean what it's supposed to mean.
Okay.
In
yeah.
ratio, it must mean what it's supposed to mean, and therefore, division makes sense.
Okay.
One actually causes the other one to happen.
Okay. What could you say the main difference between nominal and ordinal is?
Ordinal is, there's an order that the data itself wants to be put in.
Okay.
Not that we could put it in alphabetical order, but there's an order the data itself says, I must be put in this order. So like the example would be, you go to a restaurant and they say, do you think we did a poor job, a great job, a fair job? It's like, wait a minute, you're all freaking, this should be bad to good, not blah, blah, blah. There's an order that data has to be in, even though it's just names. So that would be ordinal data. Yeah. This is pretty good. I like this. Good questions. I'm always worried when I'm doing one of these review sessions and hey, damn, but nobody has a question, nobody's doing anything. Like shit, I brought nothing to do. It's up to you guys. Double check my key. Tell me if you think I made any mistakes. I've certainly been known. I am a human being, I will tell you. So if you think there's somewhere that looks to be a mistake, let me know.
That relative frequency histogram is supposed to add up to 100%, right?
Yeah, or close to it, if you round. So when you have those infinite decimal places, you're going to want to round. So it's going to take it off. If I add it up and get 97, that's a bit too far off. I probably left something out or something. Yeah. Oh.
For number 1E, you said samples because of the number of times some guys.
Yeah, it's a sample of guys. Some guys. It's not all guys. Yeah. But I will be more specific. Don't worry. I'll be very specific on the test. I'll use words that tell you, is this everybody? In fact, if you can't tell, you have to assume it's a sample in statistics. That's what we normally have in statistics is a sample. I have to be very specific if I actually do have the population, because that's a weird situation. We normally don't have the whole population. Yeah.
For population examples, you want 3, 6, 32, 90 Z/2?
Yes. So standard deviation is at least not sig figs, but at least 3 decimal places.
Okay.
Non-zero, you know. So if it's really small, don't just say it's 0. Go 0.0000029 or something. Yeah. And z-scores 2 places as well. At least 2 places. Yeah.
2C. I keep getting not the right answer. Apparently. On the practice.
So
test.
5 divided by 12. Yeah, it should be. I think I went the wrong way on that one. No, it's not 5 divided. So 7.3 divided by 12. You just double check me.
7.3.
102.30.
Negative 5 divided by 12.
Oh, I'm looking at part D. So C, negative 5 divided by 12. Yeah.
I'm getting it right.
Yeah, the 6 divided by 12 would be 0.5, half.
All right, my calculator.
Do you put it in parentheses?
I did.
Oh wait, do it again.
I just erased it.
Let me see it.
I did.
Of course, now it's going to work because I'm looking at it.
Yeah, of course it is.
Oh, now it's not doing anything. Oh, there it is. There it is.
It did.
Oh.
It did that. I don't know.
Because
why
you
it
did
that.
answer divided by 12. You divided by 12 twice. So yours is
So I
tricky.
should have gone
right
like
there.
that.
You got to tell it to put it in decimal form. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
I should have
it's
gone
all-
like that probably.
There you go. There you go.
Mistake.
Okay.
I don't know how to use that either, so it's even worse. Nah, man.
I think he's probably almost.
Oh, if it's not on practice test, is it still possible that it could be on the actual test?
Let me say this. Every concept that's on the practice test can be on the real test. In fact, the practice test is just to kind of point out to you which areas you want to go back and focus on. If you're able to do problems like the ones that are on the practice test, not just specifically only those, then you should be good for the actual test. Don't do the practice test problems more than like twice. Don't do them 8 times over, because then you get to know that problem, not that type of problem. So that's happened to people before. I kicked your practice test's ass after 8 attempts, and then I made a D in your test. Well, yeah, because you knew the practice test, you didn't understand the stuff on it. You knew the problems, not the ideas behind the problems, right? I don't do anything radically different from the homework. I don't think what I've done on this practice test is radically different from stuff you've seen in the homework, right? Okay, so don't worry, my test is not going to suddenly look like totally foreign. I've had that situation myself. I've had teachers introduce new ideas on tests. And they were like, well, the test is part of the learning process. No, the test is the test of the learning process. Anyway.
That sounds weird.
Yeah, I know. Any other questions?
I understand a bonus problem.
We will have bonus questions on the test. You don't have to try them, but if you want to, they are worth about 2 points each. So I'll give you 3. So you could get up to 106.
Can't get a hint though, huh?
Huh?
Can't get a hint?
No. They're bonus. And normally I can make them really difficult if I want to. You know, listen. I can do whatever the hell I want to on a bonus, so nobody can complain about that. All right. So if you guys are ready, you can head out. Yeah. Yeah. The only one I have left is one that kind of did this. So if you want, I'll hold my printer one.
Actually, I have to like help me.
See you, dude.
No, you're fine. I think I just found so many people making the same mistake from so many fans. Yeah, that's my fault. So just put a little note to myself. Make the corrections.
And the
And then I'll update this data.
I guess I got confused with, I thought this was significant, but I guess it is, but I don't know.
The data. What would be sitting on your list? What are you walking around writing down to be able to say this eventually? What are you writing down? What are you walking around looking at?
Who's driving what?
Am I writing people's names down? What am I writing down on that list? I'm walking around in a parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm writing down BMW, Hyundai, Ford, Toyota.
Okay.
That, of course, is purely names. There's no order to them that's necessary. So that's the lowest level, nominal.
Okay.
Nominal.
Okay.
Ordinal would say it has to be in a certain order.
Okay.
For the homework questions, how do you want them? You want it like the new ones attached?
Yes, exactly.
I just made a Russian guy's name was
Oh, yes.
And is the homework per section
totally trivial.
or if it's more than one page
I already gave you
for
one.
the
It's
sections?
like a
Oh, you can staple them all together, or you can staple just sections together. Either way. As long as it's easy for me to tell when a new section starts. Based on what you set up here,
So if you have any questions,
this looks good. You can check, see 6, 6, 6. It's got to be all 6 apart, and then you go 6 apart. Cool. I like it.
enjoy your Monday.
I have a long question. I did homework at home, but I don't know how to calculate.
The sum of these?
Yeah.
Or you know how you got these, right? So your question is just how to get the sum of these?
If
Just
I
how to
use
get that number there? Or
by hand, it's okay, but it's too long time. Like
exactly.
I put enter, like I square this, right? Minus is square this and put it each of them.
Oh, I see. So here's. Oh, you did each of them separately?
No,
Okay.
I enter each of them separately at a column. And if I do like I want to do.
So the mean you got was 53.3, right? So right here, you go to L2, and you say L2 equals all my x's, L1, minus the mean, 53.3. There you go.
Oh, you can do it again.
Oh yeah. So now you do it. So go up to L2. And you want L2 to be this. You want L2 to be L1. That's where the x's are, right? So there's L1 is up there. So second one. L1 minus the mean.
Minus mean.
53.3.
Oh, they show
There it is.
everything.
And then L3, you can make that L3. You want it to be the square of these. So you want to square L2.
So I put L2.
L2. Square. Square here. Cool. Yeah. And that's where those come from. Good.
Oh, and if I do sum for each one.
And then you can go quit. Go to list if you want to. Math sum. Sum up. And then tell it L3. Yep. Sum up L3. Enter. Squeeze. Okay.
I double check everything. You say like count.
One of our stats. Enter. And then defaults to list 1. That's where your data is. So hit enter. If my data was in a different list, I'd have to tell it which list. But there's the mean you found. That's the standard deviation you should get at the end. Cool.
Yeah, but in the chat I have to show off for you like this, or I just.
You have to show me these, and then show me. I'm sorry. Yeah, these, and then show me the formula work.
So I don't have to show you here.
No, you have to show me this table.
So
yeah. So obviously, I'm not going to give you like 80 data points because that would take forever just to write out. But you do have to show me the columns.
The column like this.
Yeah. And then the formula work, plugging it into the formula. Yeah.
Did I solve stuff wrong here?
You got as many points back as you can.
Oh, so this
sounds
is all
like you did
correct?
it. Yeah, yeah.
I just have I'm still just really not understanding that problem of having to repeat the way you mean.
Oh, so you do 10% of 88, 15 plus 15% of 95, plus 15% of 77, plus 60% of the average of these.
So I need to find the average
Mhm.
for all of.
And then multiply by the weight.